Hey, welcome to RiSE, the podcast that really supports entrepreneurs who are making an impact and a difference. And I'm really thrilled to have our guest today. He's a second-time guest within the year. His name is Rob Anderson. He's a photographer, a videographer, a philosopher on kind of on his own terms, and a motorbike enthusiast. So I think after today, we're recording on Saturday, May the 7th. I have a feeling he's going to take old Blue Eyes, his blue motorbike, out for a rip and a spin today. Am I right?
You are right, indeed. Anytime it's as beautiful as it is out today, I got to go at least for a little bit of a ride. So thank you for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to do these live sessions with you. We have great conversations when we're just going to hang out for coffee. So I look forward to recording them and having some good, powerful discussions. I think a lot of the times, some of our personal discussions, it's like, wow, we should have been recording that.
No, I know.
But
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah, do you have plans for this afternoon?
yeah, I've got some errands to run. I want to hit a reading lab, maybe go on a walk, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, there's a doubleheader baseball game on, so I'll watch the second one at 5:50 or something like that.
Oh,
So,
are they here in Toronto today?
no, they're in Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
I don't hold that against them.
Well, no, I just want to know because if I go for a motorcycle ride and everybody's coming into the city,
Oh yeah.
Lakeshore is always backed up, and it's like,
Yep.
okay, I'll have to find an alternate entrance point into the city, right? So
You're
if
good
I
to
leave
go.
the city.
You're good to go today.
All right. No, is there a Leafs game tonight?
No, they played in Tampa. They're in Tampa, so
Okay.
you're clear. Look
I
behind
think,
you. Look at the.
yeah.
You're good. You're,
Yeah, I think it was last weekend or something. Maybe it was the weekend before. I don't really follow sports too much, but I think there was soccer. I think there was the Leafs and the Blue Jays all in one day.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, it was like the Raptors playoffs and the Blue Jays, and it's like, yeah, like 60,000 people down in that area,
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good for business though.
yeah, it needs it for sure. Well, talking about business, since this is about rise up, impactful, socially aware entrepreneurs, what's the state of business, small business these days? What are you hearing, seeing, and sensing? Where are small business owners at after these past, two very sort of tumultuous, extremely challenging years we've all experienced?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to that question because small business owners, if you have a retail location or a restaurant, that's a much different thing. Somebody like myself, doing like now coming out of the lockdown, it's much better. But it was weird, It was 2 years. Most of my stuff that I used to do was in person, and so it
Hmm.
caused me to have to shift online a little bit more, and that I'm doing that currently. But I think I was talking with a few people this week, and for people that had jobs, it was their big challenge was working from home or whatever. It's not that they didn't have any unique challenges, but for people who were self-employed, small businesses, and going on lockdown, a lot of people lost their jobs, lost their clients, lost their income, lost the gigs they had, lost the whatever. The list goes on. Workshops, in-person workshops, so that was a thing that was shifted online quite a bit, right? So I think that the dealing with the fallout from all that, but also I think it was interesting because of the political kind of, I'll call it nonsense that went on between masks versus non and this and that. It really separated people. So it was nice to find people that were kind of a little bit more in line with your tribe, and maybe even though we lost some work with clients, maybe finding people that are a little bit more yeah, part of the way you see the new earth, the where you want to build, right? So it was kind of almost like a cleansing in a way.
Yeah. You brought up a couple of really interesting points, and that is that these past 2 years have separated us in terms of, you know, some people are for what's going on, some people are no, I'm not buying into it, and so and that impacts us, right? Because there's loss of relationships. There could be like loss of clients as a result as well, because they're probably going to want to work with somebody who's more in line with their thinking, as you just alluded to. So how do how do you propose that we manage that within our own, you know, our own communities, our own business communities, and rebuild a business with people that are perhaps more in line and more understanding? Because I find that divide has really grown quite widely, and it's, yeah, it's just sort of like it's hard for people to connect and put away those differences. And those differences weren't, they weren't there like maybe 3 years ago before this. They've just really, the divides gotten worse over the past two and a quarter years. So how would you sort of advise somebody to sort of manage themselves around that, but also to keep moving forward and to find that new tribe?
Well, I think you and I talked before we started recording. Go within. That's all you can do is, and that's what I did the 2 years. It was a little bit of rage, like, oh, we shouldn't be on lockdown, and like upset that business was lost and that we were forced to stay in, and things like that. And but what can I do? I could focus on internal, what's going on inside of me. Who do I want to work with? What kind of businesses do I want to support? Do you want to support local, or do you want to support businesses? It's really, you have these decisions that you can make for yourself. And also, what kind of companies do you want to work with? What kind of clients do you want to work with? And I know that sometimes that, when you're first starting out in your career, it's like you're so anxious to get jobs in the door that you kind of just work with anybody. But I heard a good, I forget who said it, but I was reading somewhere, and it was like, yeah, I totally agree with that. They said, pick your clients the way you would pick your friends. So when you're doing prospecting, or when you're in the initial thing, just because you get somebody who wants to use your services doesn't mean you're obligated to provide them. If they're condescending, if they're whatever there's a lot of toxic relationships that I've had to say no to, and it's like, it feels good that first time when you say, you know what, I don't need the money as bad as I need this headache that this client's going to provide. So I think it's been a good opportunity, because it's like, well, I'm not going to support businesses that are for segregation and for, not freedom of choice or free will or rights. And people will say all these silly things like, oh, like, it's like this debate I'm not going to have. Like, I think, I stopped wearing a mask anywhere at the beginning of this year in January 22nd, or 2022. And I was like, I'm just not playing this game anymore. And so it's allowed me to really pick and choose who I let into my life and where my attention goes and what I'm focusing on. And so, yeah, it's kind of, everything has a silver lining, and it's been bittersweet in a lot of ways, but I think it really allows us to redefine our business goals and the types of clients we want to work with, where we want our business to go, and who we want to be associated with that as well.
Yeah, and it's so huge, and I teach a lot of businesses in my, training practice, and that's what I say, like, really identify who your ideal client is. And so, yeah, it has shifted. Perhaps maybe you're not going after everyone. You can't go after everyone anyway. You got to really niche now,
Yeah.
and hyper focus,
Yeah.
and really go within and decide what's that client profile like. What are the characteristics I'm looking for, and then work with them. Right?
Yeah. I get that. And deep down inside, I love everybody, and I don't want to create.
No.
We were talking about more unity. So if there's people, but it's like, yeah, like if me being vaccinated and wearing a mask is part of your prerequisites to work with me, I'm not doing either of those things. So thanks, but no thanks. Call me if you're ever cool with taking the mask off. Like that. It's no harm, no foul. Like, I don't have an axe to grind or whatever, but I'm just not, I have the choice to do it. I'm just not playing that game anymore. I'm not taking part in that. That's not the world I'm going to be living in. It's not, I'm not going to be wearing masks. And if you want to wear them and all that stuff, that's fine still. I know there's still a lot of places that still have mandates and things like that, and that's up to them. I will not be supporting those businesses.
I understand. And then I went on an interview for a position with an organization. I'm not naming names, but they opened up the interview saying, well, we just want to make you known that you have to be fully vaccinated and adhere to our vaccine mandates here with our organization. And I went, well, that's where this interview stops. And it was
Yeah.
like 10 minutes, and that was
Yeah.
it. You know,
Well, see you later.
thank you and good night. You know,
Yeah. I
yeah,
bid you adieu.
yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with them, because they're in a
Yeah.
position where they have to, you know, for optics, have to uphold certain, you know, governmental regulations. So that it wasn't like, oh, well, you know, I don't like that individual now. It wasn't, not at all like that. Just it was sort of a difference of opinion, really. That's all it is. And you just be respectful. And you know, you said going within and working with people, like, and maybe not feeding the fuel or the fire, not fueling the fire and fanning the flames with imposing our will onto somebody else. I think now, you said going within. I think it's really now we have to lead by example. We can't,
Hmm.
you can't talk. You know, you can't convince somebody that, well, maybe what you're, you know, what choices you're making or decisions you're making, and this is in anything in life, you know, if somebody wants to smoke and drink, you know, heavily, and you suggest, like, you might want to quit, right? And share your point of view as to why it's not healthy for you, you're not going to convince them to stop. So it's
No.
the same thing with what's going on with this sort of divide that's been created in society and in business too, because it's all part of it. I think you do have to go within and just say, you know what, this isn't a battle I'm going to take on, as you've already said, and you know, in your own world. And not only that, I'm just going to lead by example. And I remember there was a book called by Guy Kawasaki, and he said, you know, it was about, called The Art of the Start, and it was about helping companies pitch for venture, you know, capital. And he said one of the things we look for from owners of businesses is, are they a mensch, which in Yiddish, or, you know, it means, are they class acts? And I think that's what you need to be right now. You gotta hold yourself high, no matter what your beliefs are, and just be cool. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, I used to drink and smoke, and I battled with that for a lot of years. And that was part of the you know, the good part of for me about the lockdown was that I was like, okay, you know what, this is not healthy for me anymore, and I decided to stop. And so I haven't, you know, since October of last year, I haven't had a cigarette or a drink, and that's the continued things that I keep doing. You know, we were talking about daily juices. I drink distilled water. I go for at least an hour walk every day. I do workouts. I do yoga. The yoga is because of back injuries, but you know, it's like mandatory for me now. But I spend most of my, you know, when you're self-employed, I read years ago. I don't know if I said it on the first show, but I read years ago about this guy who put he blocked off like the first 3 hours in his morning for him, and so he never booked early morning meetings till about 10 a.m. or whatever. You know, the first 3 hours were, you know, do what you have to do. Go for a walk, do your meditation, do your creative writing, do some reading, yoga, whatever your morning routine is. And I do creative scheduling, so I take, you know, five to eight things that I do have to do every day. I'll just do them in different orders, so that way it's not monotonous. That's where, you know, monotony becomes drudgery at some point. And so if you're waking up every morning and it's like you're rolling out of bed, like I did that at the corporate thing, and it was like the same routine, like, you know, hit snooze for 15 minutes, then get out of bed at the last possible minute and jump in the shower, and you know, and so yeah, you take back control and go within and say, hey, this is what do, like, you know, I've got one shot at this. How do I really want my life to be? And so that was what the lockdown for me did, because it allowed me to kind of do those things, go within, and did a lot of reading and self-reflection, and so coming out on the other side of it now, yeah, that's, you know, that's the thing, is that everybody was living in fear during the lockdown. For the people that weren't fearing the virus, those of us fearing the totalitarian measures, so it was just not a good, it was just a fear soup, you know, like, and nothing, and every, so it was very unhealthy in a lot of ways. But so what can we do? We can go within, and we can't change the outside world, but we can be at peace internally. And I'm really coming to a place with that. I've been working hard at it for, you know, totally shifting my consciousness and my perspective on life and what I came here to do, and understanding that on a deep level, right?
Yeah. And fear, you know, from so many perspectives. I like how you said fear soup. I agree, it is. It's like,
I've never
oh,
used that before. It just
I,
came to
no,
it.
it's great. It's great because we're on a steady diet of it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I happen to go to a couple of businesses where CP24 is on, and God bless them, you know. But it's like after 1 minute, it's like, oh my God, like stop, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
usually I'm, you know, at a doctor's office and it's on. It's like I really, you know, I'm not feeling well anyway, or I wouldn't be here today. Can you turn that thing off because it's making me sick?
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. Fear impacts us so much we don't even know. It affects our health. It affects our ability to move forward in our businesses and take risks and well, should I do this or not? Or am I going to lose everything or what? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think if you can separate yourself from the fear and just let go of the fear and just say, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to, you know, choose healthier options, like you just said. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to work on my inner game. I'm going to maybe meditate more. I'm going to write and journal more, and just let go of the fear because the fear is always there. And it's like a little. I've been studying with Kyle Cease, and he calls it. It's like your inner child, really, and the inner child's going bah, 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 right, and
Yeah.
it's just going, yeah, but don't do that because this could happen, or if you do that, this could happen. And it's that inner voice that just is gnawing at you all the time. What's
Yeah.
your take on that? You know, and how do you quiet that inner voice, and how do you, you know, make friends with the fear? Because you have to make
Well,
friends with the fear.
yeah, well, I think instead of trying to quiet the voice, I think, in some ways you have to honor it and hear it, and then you kind of, it's like you have to almost. I was, what was I watching the other day? Maybe it was this Brad guy. He does I'm doing a 30-day breathing challenge thing that my friend did, but
Oh, cool.
he said that like when you go back to your inner child, or if you're going back through timeline healing and doing things and looking at, okay, this significant point in my life, whether it was like losing a job or a family member or
Mm.
breaking up with like a divorce or something or whatever, these major significant things, maybe it was an assault or so, whatever, there was this thing that you need to go back and heal. He said go back, and I like the way he put it. He said don't forgive your former self or anything like that, because then it's assuming you're still judging it, making it wrong, and that like forgiveness is like something that you have to like, it's almost like this holier than thou feeling, like, oh, I forgive you, you're a piece of crap,
Mm.
but I forgive you,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so you don't do that to your younger self. Go back and neutralize it, and just, so that's what I said, honor it and say, yeah, I understand you're an 8-year-old kid, it's scary, dad left, mom left or died or whatever it is, it is scary, but you're gonna be okay. um, Look, I'm here to tell you that you survived because I'm your I'm you
Yeah,
down the road.
yeah, you
You're
are.
gonna be okay. You're gonna be
Yeah.
okay. And just to send love, you don't even have to say anything. Just like a hugging embrace, and that vibration of everything's gonna be all right, yeah. So like you said, facing the fear and doing it anyways. I forget who it was that
Oh, yeah, there was a book.
the 3, 2, 1 go and just do it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or Mel Robbins, yeah, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 go, right?
Yeah, that's who, you're the one who told me about that,
Yeah,
right? Mel
yeah.
Robbins. I always, because we have so many good conversations, and I talk to
Mm.
people, and I'm like, did I hear that in a podcast or read it, or did
Yeah,
I never know where stuff comes from, right? Or was it
yeah.
something?
I know because and that's yeah. I like what you said. So sort of embrace it and embrace your total self, because our total self is our true selves are empowered, and we can take on the world some days, but then our small selves come up, and we have to embrace that and just give it a hug and say it's going to be okay, like you said. Let's move forward. I remember, making cold calls for this project I was launching a number of years ago, and my little inner critic said, yeah, you see, this isn't for you. Maybe you should have taken a different career path. And I went, thank you for the advice. I'm going to make another call to get a client, So you have to embrace it, thank it, bless it, because really that voice, the fear voice or whatever it is, your inner critic, it's just trying to keep you safe, right? And when you're
Hmm.
in your safety zone or your comfort zone, after a while, it's not too comfortable.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that I start to get uncomfortable when I'm too comfortable. It's like, okay, something's got to change, because that's the balance in life, is having that balance, and with progress moving forward, but being, that's the wonderful thing about life, is that it's like I think Albert Einstein said it's like life is but a dream or an illusion, albeit a persistent one. So, it's not this nightmare that things act pretty consistently, like gravity's here, people kind of look the same every day. So it's good that there's consistencies. You can get up and make progress the next day and things aren't the same. If you got up one morning and you were in like a totally different world, it would be like, oh my God, what happened? It would be so overwhelming. So it's good that we, it's consistent and we can make the changes and do these things and do the growth. And that's why some people believe that we come to Earth, because you have to be here in the physical, in man's seeming timeline to actually do the work and think about it and make a difference, right?
Yeah, totally. And you're right. It is. It's like, it is. People say it's a school, whatever it is. This is a place of learning, and I think we, I remember doing landmark education, which is
I did that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember they said like life is meaningless and empty.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was on Saturday, I think, of the forum, and everybody's going, "No, it's not. No, it is." And people really got like upset with that one, right? What do you mean it's meaningless and empty?
Yeah.
Well, because we're, as humans, they say, we're meaning-making machines. We put meaning to everything. What does this mean? If you're like that, then this means you're this, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Is that true? And then, Byron Katie, the 4 questions, right? The work. Mm-hmm. Is it true? Who would you be without that thought? How do you know it's true? All those questions are, this is a great time to really go in and really discover, like, maybe there's something else to us other than who we are today. What's your take on that?
I totally agree. And we were touching on this before, is that we were not taught that we are all God. We're gods in embryos. We're not just human. We are part human, but that what are we going to be in 1,000 years? Like our collective foresight right now is so selfish and short-sighted. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to just get what I can here and take what I can take, and then hoard it in the corner for retirement and then die. But it's like, well, who knows? Like, I love reading these things that, maybe we're eternal beings. Maybe if we ate healthy lives and lived clean and didn't have pollution, that, like the Garden of Eden, maybe it was perfect before we started screwing it up, And so we've been like that video you were showing me. We've become disconnected from God. We forgot that we are parts of God. We're not the God. We're not. You don't get it from this narcissistic, like,
no,
like whatever I say goes, but we
yeah.
we have the power to affect the outside world by our thoughts and what we project forward, the vibration that we hold inside, the true, what we were talking about, the subconscious thoughts, your sponsoring thought. Like, you can't say I'm amazing if you believe you're crap, if somebody's told you that your whole life. So we haven't been encouraged either through society or a lot of religions, and I'm not going to specify anyone's Catholic, but I was raised like that, where God was outside of you and you had to go to confession to a priest to be right with God, or pay penance, or do Hail Mary or Hail Marys. Yeah, Hail Marys. I was thinking rosaries, or I was thinking Hail Mary pass, but
that's in football.
Yeah. I'm getting my religion's confused with sports, but what I'm saying is that we were not taught that we are God and we have control over our inner world, which ultimately co-creates our external world with everybody else around us. So, if we're caught up in that fear soup, we're contributing to that. But if we can stand serene, calm, and poised, and realize that everything around us, it might seem like turmoil, but maybe it's perfect, maybe it's working itself out, because everybody else is God too. They just don't realize the power of their thoughts and feelings. So taking back that power to say, hey, wow, like maybe all my negative thinking is hurting people more than I realize, not just me, because if you truly believe we all are one, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so, that you're not taken away from anybody by doing the inner work, and even if you don't agree with family members and you have to go somewhere, but we have to realize that we are physical manifestations of the same consciousness. We all are gods and embryos, and we need to start acting like it. Like every encounter is a divine encounter. Even the person, like, people judge and they think that they're somehow better or separate from that other person. They're all us. It's all versions of us and them. God, consciousness, that's what it is. It's God made this world so he could come experience it through us, through, learn. Some people want to play the piano, some people like me like to ride motorcycles. God came to experience all those through through his manifestations and his individuations, and that's what we've forgotten. People treat other people like they're better than them, and that all life should be sacred and all sentient life, and and the energy behind that energy that is God. It's in this pen. It's what holds the atoms together. It's the electronic life force, and that's in all of us, in everything, and it's always being projected. So what are we projecting forth? What are we responsible for? If we're in turmoil and unbalanced and chaotic inside, then that's what we're putting forth, and that's what we're going to see in our world. So it's up to us to take the responsibility and do the inner work so that we know that we're affecting positive change in the world around us.
Yeah. And it affects our work, it affects our business, it affects our relationships with all that there is. And most important, our relationships with self and with God, whoever we feel that is. I was told, well, God's not like some guy who sits in heaven on a throne and just, gives you what you asked for. It's way more than that,
Yeah.
it's everything that is. Which is like we can't even, imagine what that is.
Yeah.
I just wanted to expand on something you said, and I like the fact that you're tempering it down. That yes, we are part of God. We're not a God, so you got to watch the ego here.
Yeah.
But what that means is, what if, here's my question. And because we just watched this video before we went to record here today by Lars Mool on YouTube. And he talked about the fact that we have to start acting like taking responsibility, and we have to start acting like we are. And
Yeah.
and that means being kind to one another, being kind to ourselves, being loving, being accepting. Doesn't mean you have to be everybody's best buddy. I don't think we're asking for that, but I think we have to shift the operating system, because the operating system right now is really stinking, and
Mm-hmm.
and more and more people are starting to think that no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And it's saddening, like from how the past 2.25 years have really affected so many people, personally, professionally, financially, spiritually, emotionally, with the rates of suicide going up, and depression and mental health issues. We've got to really like get together and create what we want to create, not
Mm-hmm.
just keep on being who we've always been. We got to step back and say, okay, who do I want to be in this world? How do I want to be seen? And do it on a daily basis, not on a big scale. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's moment to moment. Like we recreate
Yeah.
ourselves, and that's I always say that's how we create momentum. Is if you take care of this moment, the next one will naturally take care of itself. So moment to moment creates momentum, and when you're, I know, and this is not like. I hope people don't get like I said. I just quit smoking and drinking, and I had a spiritual side my whole life, but also like I had to deal with the demons and that, and the not realizing that, hey, I am God. Like I remembered sometimes, but we have to realize that like life is a miracle, that it's pretty incredible. Like you can wake up and it's when you have kind of an enlightenment or a shift in consciousness and something, there's a lot of things that trigger that, but you start seeing life differently, and it's seeing the strange and the familiar. That's what one of my high school art teachers always used to say, see the strange and the familiar. And Eckhart talks about it in the beginning of The Power of Now, how like after he had enlightenment, it's like even though you're looking at the same thing, it looks totally different, like you're seeing it the first time. And that's what we have to do, is we have to get rid of the filter of our past and how we think the world operates. We have to be teachable again. We have to be willing to understand that we don't really know too much. Most people
No.
think they do.
Yeah.
And like just because the TV told you something doesn't mean it's true. And so we have to be willing to take a step back and realize that like life is way more. It's simple, but it's way more complicated. Like you said, like what holds our bodies together? What holds what pumps our heart and everything? What causes our brain to run? And even just lifting my hand like this, like that's incredible. And so when we look at life as being incredible rather than through that negative filter of you're not good enough, I didn't make the high school football team, I didn't that, this girl said no, my dad said this, my aunt said I was too skinny, my girlfriend said I was too fat. The voice in our head almost always defaults to you're crap, or you're not good enough, or you're not strong enough, like you said, or whatever to keep you safe. We need to flip the script. We need to be, you're magnificent. You can do anything you absolutely put your mind to, and probably even more that we don't even know yet. Like, who knows what's going to happen with evolution and technology, and where we're going to be in 10 years or 100 years or 1,000 years, you know? And so we have to look that life's beautiful, and we have to be that light for other people. Even though it's not perfect, I don't agree with a lot of the things that of the world that I've been born into, like the tax system and over governance and some of the all these things. But how do we be positive, and how do we say, you know, how do we not take part of that? Like, there's the oh, I can't, if you can't beat them, join them attitude, and it's just like, oh, I can't do that. Like, and you know, so how do we wake up with that? And it's like we were talking about before, it's a lot of work. It's just work. It's doing positive affirmations. It's reading new material. It's saying, hey, I want more than what I've been told or what I've been given or where I'm at right now. It's like, you know, I'm at a plateau and I want to level up, and there is ways to do it. And most people think they have the world figured out because they want to keep you simple. They want to keep it, you know, locked down. They want to keep you small, an employee, rather than this, you know, amazing person who realizes that they're God and powerful. And, you know, so whether or not there's conspiracy theories that we're being self-limited, or it's just ignorance of humanity, forgetting that they are divine, it's still a vast part of our society, right? That whether it's intentional or not, it's there.
Yeah. You wonder too, you know, like how many people I'm seeing, like, you know, downtown Toronto where you're at. And I think I now know where you are. That is that King Street behind you?
Yeah, or that's Bathurst, so King is to my left.
Okay.
Or yeah,
Oh yeah, I know you. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you feel, you know, you ever, I wonder, like, how many people do we encounter every day that have done this work, you know, that have sat in with a psychotherapist for a few sessions, that have read, I'm not going to say that guy, that have read maybe Tony Robbins, or some sort of a book that might have enlightened them or helped them. The Self-Esteem Prophecy, for me, way back when, was a game changer for you know, on my spiritual path. How many people have, you know, worked on their, you know, their stories, you know, like a Mel Robbins in the, you know, the 5 4 3 2 1 rule, or read a Byron Katie book. And you wonder, like, how many people have done that personal work so that they can be, you know, to heal and level up, as you alluded to. Does you, like, you ever think like that? Like I do. Like, it's like, how many people are really conscious and aware, and are really like, yeah, I want to be better. I want something better for our world and our humanity. That's kind of where I'm at in my life. It's like, I'm just here to make it better, the world a bit better from the time I came in to the time I leave.
Yeah, it's like be loving, be lovable, and be loved, and understand those things, and try to, you know, you don't have to be so selfless, or like nobody wants asking you to be martyr, but you
No.
know, take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was getting back to doing the morning rituals in the first 3 hours of your day. Book for yourself, because you can't take care of anybody else if you don't take care of yourself first. So do those things, and you know, the number one priority, health is wealth. Like, I've been rich and I've been poor, and neither of those things had anything to do with money. And you know, I value time and freedom and clear-headedness, and so I would rather actually work less hours and ultimately make less money, because I charge hourly for a lot of things, but not everything. But and have more time to just go for a walk in the park and enjoy the birds, and give directions to people who aren't from the city, or take pictures for a couple that are, you know, like, that's what I love to do. I love to go out and just kind of be nobody in a sea of everybody a lot of the times too. And it's so, whether I go do that in nature, sometimes I've been doing it in the city the past year, but I love having the free time to do that. Not that it's free time, because I feel I'm more connected at that time. And I get my greatest inspiration. So for work wise, that's when, you know, either riding my motorcycle on my morning walks, that's when I really get creative. That's where I can, especially on my bike, because it's loud and I'm going down the highway, that's when I'll pretend that I'm doing readings or teaching a class or something like that, because nobody's around and I'm not self-conscious, like, oh, who's going to hear me if I'm talking to myself in my condo, or just so yeah, that's where I do kind of the speaking out loud, where I don't have the fear of being heard, and even that, it's like I shouldn't care what other people think. I'm working on that. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I do my some of my best creative work and get my biggest inspiration is when, because for me those things are meditative and they take you out. It's like and that's another tip that for people is the more stressed out you are, unless you have an appointment today where it's like you're going for surgery and it's not the end of the world. So I made that when 2 years ago when we first went into lockdown, and it's like the more stressed out I am, the longer of a walk I go on. And it's like if I'm like, oh, I got to get this done by like noon, it's like, no, I'm going to go for a walk till noon now, and then put that off. Not that you should procrastinate everything, but
Mhm.
if you're really stressed out about something, a lot of the times our thinking isn't the solution, because our best thinking got us here, as one of the saying goes, right? So sometimes you just need to go be present, and you'll have that like aha moment when
Yes.
you're,
Or,
yeah, be
or,
inspired.
yeah, or meditate, be in a
Yeah,
meditative state.
yeah,
I feel that we can shift in on a dime, but it's just going to take everybody, not everybody, but enough of us to start, reimagining our businesses, reimagining how we do life, reimagining government, reimagining economies, reimagining health, reimagining the environment, and then working collectively towards that. And I mean all of us. I don't mean a select few leaders that are running things right now. It's like I alluded to this before we went on. It's like, who died and put them in charge. you know
yeah,
like we have the power too to make decisions. We have creativity, we have new ideas. Sometimes like the best idea can come from somebody you'd never even imagine would have it. And I'll give you an example. It's a business example. This is going to blow you away a little bit, and those watching. So there was a young man. He was a product manager for Comet, the powder that you clean your sinks and toilets with.
yeah,
And they were having their meeting, their marketing meeting. How are we going to sell more Comet? How are we going to get more sales, right? And that day he brought his dad into the meeting because he had to take them to his father to a medical appointment after, right? And his father was elderly. And so they're all meeting and jamming and thinking, oh, what new ways and new marketing tactics and new campaigns. And his father put up his hand and said, do you mind if I, share an idea? And they said, no, go ahead. Just make the holes bigger. The holes on the can.
yeah, yeah,
Make them bigger. Brilliant.
yeah,
What do you think happened? Holes bigger, more stuff came out. You use more, you got to buy more.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's hilarious, like where things, yeah, it's like those things that are kind of like a lot of the good ideas that, or even things that people having a few drinks and come up with this silly idea, but then it works out. Or even some of the things I've said as a joke, people are like, that's a good idea, like sometimes it's just, yeah, the first thing that comes to you is the simplest reason, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So this inner work, what would be a good sort of, for somebody new to this concept of doing the morning rituals or the inner work, what would you recommend a good recipe for success would be for doing that inner work every day?
Well, for me, I'll just speak to experience,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the way I went, and I'm sure there's probably better ways of doing it. But for myself, it's been 3 years actually, almost to the day, that I started doing Wim Hof breathing um, religiously before I got out of bed every morning. So I would, if you go, investigate Wim Hof, he's an incredible guy. He's got like 26 Guinness World Records, and he's got this breathing technique, and basically you do that every morning before you get out of bed, and it super oxygenates your blood, and just your timing, your how long you can hold your breath. So it's kind of, it involves a little bit of a challenge or something to kind of do. But I didn't realize, as I mentioned, I'd smoked for 24 years, my whole life, if you consider I lived with smokers and family that smoked. But so breathing is the number one thing that I would say that most people aren't doing properly, and I wasn't personally, and I didn't realize how important it is and how beneficial it is. It's, you know, the essence, the breath of life, literally. And so, yeah, if you want to do the inner work, do the morning meditations, Wim Hof breathing before you get out of bed. And I've been doing it religiously for 3 years now, and I still do it. And it takes a little bit of getting used to, and I'll admit it. You know, I wasn't good at it at first, and I'd start drifting, and I'd start thinking about the day and stressing out, and then I'd be like, oh, am I supposed to be doing my breathing technique? You know, so it really takes you. You have to focus and meditate on it and do it. So if you have a guided breathing technique or something to music or somebody guiding you through it, those ones are good too. There's lots on YouTube, but I would say start with doing the breathing, and then just be open and receptive to things, like, you know, pick up a book by Eckhart Tolle or some of the authors that you mentioned, Neville Goddard. There's all kinds of stuff out there. There's and just be willing to learn, because if you went, I was listening to some tapes a while back, and that was the guy who said that, you know, I was talking about the law of attraction and all this stuff, and he said the number one thing why most people don't meet with success or don't evolve in their life is because they think they know it all. They're not teachable. They get to, you know, they get out of high school or out of their college program, and they kind of just, this is it. This is what I know. This is what I'm going to go do through life. You should get, it's like Tony Robbins says, constant and never-ending improvement. Like, you're going to be doing this your whole life. It's not like you're going to read one book and be like, well, there's the secret to life. I don't have to do anything evermore. It's constantly learning. Maybe you want to, you want to do different things. You might, you know, I know people who started playing an instrument at like 65 years old. Do that. That's what life is for. It's experience, you know. So, you know, what you want to do today, and don't be scared to change directions or go different, you know, like, you're not obliged to do anything at all or beholden to any person, place, thing, or institution. That, you know, if you're going down a path and you don't like where you're going, you can change directions. So, but the breath work is the number one thing, and that really centers you. And I've even done days where I said, oh, I'm going to focus, like on a Sunday, I'm going to focus purely on my breathing all day today, and do things consciously and really focus. And it seems silly because, well, you don't, you know, we breathe naturally, but you don't realize how shallow your breath is, or how when you get upset, you're holding your breath, or you have tension in it. And I didn't know these things until very recently. So yeah, start with the deep breathing, and make sure that if you could do that every morning before you could get out of bed.
Yeah, just 3 rounds. I do about 2 to 3 rounds when I meditate.
Yeah.
And actually, so you know, you're part of this on May 26th. For those watching, I'm launching a series on self-love and empowerment. It starts off with a roundtable discussion town hall where you can, you know, email me and connect with me and be a part of that town hall and ask questions and learn. And then there's a 2-week series, two times a week, with guests with different topics we're going to take on. One's trauma, one's healing, one's leadership, and then the other is breathwork with Joey House, Hauss, and he teaches the Wim Hof method. Nice. So for those that don't know Wim Hof, he is a bit of a character. It's WMHOFF.
But if you've ever listened to his story about what got him into it, or if you've ever seen that about
wasn't it a loss of his wife or something like that?
Yeah, and he had 4 kids, and I think she committed suicide, and he was devastated, and, you know, so he went through that journey. And like, the first time I watched it, and it's just like, yeah, it was, you realize that that was something, watching that and listening to him made me realize the importance of what he was talking about.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, and then, you know, you look at yoga and meditation, and it all involves the breath. So there's got to be something there, you know.
Yeah, and I do yoga. I do yoga every day. So I mean, the spiritual journey, like, to start with that, yoga and the breath work is probably the primary things that you should do, because it really brings you into the moment and focuses, and you're taking the time for yourself. Like, you know, people who say, oh, I don't have time for that. Well, then you have poor time management. So if you can't take 15 minutes, 20 minutes to do a meditation, a breathwork meditation before you get out of bed, then you have little control over your life.
Yeah, and you know, we spend a lot of time on Facebook or social media. Cut that out, you know.
Yeah,
you and I we were talking beforehand that we've cut out a lot of our consumption of you know, either truther type material or the news. I don't even watch the news if I can help it.
Yeah, I rarely do. I stopped watching the news probably when I was about 21 and around university. Like, I was never big on watching it, but I mean, you know, live with family when you're younger, and they watch the nightly news and stuff like that. So you kind of peek your head in, but like honestly, nothing of the news is really of concern to
It's a
me.
horror story. It
Yeah,
really is. It's a horror story.
it's somebody's perspective. It's like there's a murder. If you're looking this way, and there's somebody getting stabbed, but there's 359 other degrees of views of people not dying. So it's like taking the worst of society and projecting that out, saying this is gotta stop. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't things that, but it's all the same news. Like, that's a whole topic for another show. All the same news media outlets are run by the same 6 companies. It's clickbait. It's something to grab your attention so they can sell you products on the commercials, or tell you why you need to wear 3 masks now instead of 2, or how many jabs you need to get. It's to sell products. It's like, let's call a spade a spade. There's a difference. If there was real balanced news reporting, which maybe there might have been in the 50s back in the day, but it's long since gone, especially the past 2 years, because we've seen people getting censored. So you can't tell me that one biased viewpoint is the news.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the world that I think we should probably know about more than what they tell you, because they want to keep you fear. They want you to tune in at 11 to see the update of the crash. They want you to tune in, tomorrow to see how the new virus numbers. Tune in. It's always just things that are meant to grab and suck your attention, which takes away from your inner presence, which we were talking about going within. You can't go within when you're staring at CTV in a state of fear, thinking, hey, maybe I should go buy 300 rolls of toilet paper today because there might be a something, like that.
The old quote, if it bleeds, it leads, right?
yeah. So
it's really, it is sad. So, for those watching, start to question. Don't just, go blindly. And as I say that, it's 111.
Yeah, look at
recording. So those are angel numbers. So
yeah,
I see that all the time. Happened yesterday too with a colleague of mine. So I just want to talk to you about some trends. What are some trends you're seeing in business? What do we need to sort of be aware of and take on or look at moving forward if we're going to succeed in this sort of new environment that we're in?
It has to be people focused. Like, we need to get over profits. Like, we need to get over this, like, people sitting on using money to make money, and like what's going on with the downtown Toronto condos, where they're pushing out the residents, buying up these condos, flipping them, and then pumping them out for higher profits for their shareholders. Like, enough's enough. It needs to be. We need more community. We need people focused. We need to really focus on our the right in front of us. All this, like, and on a larger scale, I think we going on lockdown in a way was interesting, because we need to focus here, Canada specifically. Let's take care of our own here. Like, we don't need to be sending money in foreign aid. We've got problems to solve at home. Like, that's like, don't complain about the snow on your neighbor's roof when your own porch is unswept. Like, we need to take care of, first of all, we need to take care of ourselves individually, then collectively. Then we can start thinking about, okay, well, maybe we should be helping other people. That's what I think we really need to focus on, and maybe that's, maybe not everybody would agree with that.
No, I do.
Yeah, but that's because there's this toxic thing about people giving and this martyrdom and helping out others, when it really comes from ego, being like, oh, we gave all this money to this country. Is that what they needed? Maybe they needed you to stop exploiting their children and child labor. Maybe they don't need more money. Maybe they're rich people don't need more money, so they can depend on how to do. Maybe you need to stop buying, clothes from sweatshops. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe they like. So I don't know. Like, focusing on ourselves and taking care of our, our families here at home first is number one concern.
I agree.
Yeah.
And because, like, to take on the problems of the world, it's like, it's a little bit too much. But if we focus on our own homes, our own selves, ourselves first, our own homes, and then our little community, and we do it, each community gets strong, and you build a nice model to live and exist and eat and come together and maybe pray or meditate or whatever. You build a nice, healthy, balanced model that we can all live together, and then you build out.
Exactly.
Hey, this works. Let's build out and adapt.
And I'm not saying that we can't have immigration and stuff, but that's what people don't realize, is that it's just a big chessboard, and that they create wars in other countries, so then they could bring people here, and then we've got eight condos going up skyscrapers, so that we have these, half the condos are empty, and it's this overinflated housing market, and people are living on the streets. The people who live and work in the city can't even afford to live here. Sorry, and so they're being pushed out. So it's just it's all kind of like backwards. We need to focus on the population and our collective consciousness, like what the saying, like a society should be judged on how it treats the least of its members, and so we need to focus here at home, and it's like there's lots of things that can be done, and it really starts with going within, because if you can't take care of yourself and you're not healthy, then that reflects outwards, right? So
Yeah. Wow. What are you up to? Where do we reach you to connect with you, and what do you got going on?
I got my YouTube channel, which I'm gonna focus on, and I mean I'm on Facebook as well, and I kind of do my own thing, like I just I like being the light, going for a walk randomly and helping people and stuff like that. So I'm always willing to open and connect with people, and do shows like this, but I don't really have to be. I don't want to let the ego get too much in the way of just living simply. So I like doing things and connecting with people. So you can find me on my YouTube channel or my Facebook. I don't have Instagram or anything like that, even though I do love photography and videography. But yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, and what I'm doing right now is I'm finishing up a book that I'm writing, and it's been taken. It was an actual experience. So I mean, I've written it and rewrote it, and then I've been going through the like.
Oh, wait till the editing.
Yeah, well now it's just more of like, just the self doubt and self questioning that you go through. Like, so I'm just getting over that, and I'm working on it, and kind of lining up for what the summer is going to look like and what direction. So I've been, like I said, I'm looking at developing some workshops and stuff like that, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to launch first, but I've got a lot of stuff. I would like to focus on some of the things that we chat about, workplace mental health, and just individual health as well, because that's been a huge factor for myself the past year. And even the past 10 years, I mean, I used to weigh 250 pounds, and I was just reading something the other day, and it was my first training day when that was how I was said I was going to lose all this weight, because I weighed 250 pounds, and I was like looked at myself in the mirror, and I was crying, and I was like, oh my God, how did I get here? And so I bought a mountain bike, and I was like, I'm doing 30-40K a night, down the harbor front, the waterfront, and up the Don River trails. But that was where my journey started. So that was 11 years ago. So life's a process, right? Life's an unfolding and an evolution. So you just start somewhere and you keep growing and growing, and that's what I'm always doing. I'm always reading new things and trying to pass on the knowledge that I've read and things like that to others. So yeah.
Very good. What's your YouTube channel? How do we find it?
It's just my name, just Rob Anderson. I could wherever you're posting this, I could send you the link if you want to put it underneath there or whatever. But yeah, it's just my name, Rob Anderson.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Any final thoughts? Any one last nugget or piece of wisdom? Not that you haven't been sharing tons of it in this interview.
Yeah, no, just like what I really truly do believe is that we're moving into, I believe, the golden age of mankind, and you're either coming with us or you're not. The old paradigm is failing, the old system is failing, and it's going to be much more loving, and just treat others as you want to be treated. Just be love, be an example of that, be loving and understand, and as you, instead of judgment, instead of living your life in judgment, come from a place of enjoyment. And rather than judging others, just try to understand. So when you see people that are angry and upset, just realize all the times that you've been angry and upset, and that it's more a reflection of them and what they're going through rather than you. And so a little bit more understanding with everybody. And I think that, in a strange part, that's been a benefit of the past 2 years, is that I myself have come to a lot better understanding, where I understand everybody's fears are different. We all have fears, and it's just now that some people wear theirs on their face, but it's like, what? Well, I have fears that they don't know about, so I don't judge anymore. It's like, no. we're all in this. We really are all in this together, and it sounds one of those cheesy taglines that I don't like to use, but yeah, just have more compassion and
Yeah.
understand. understanding, and realize that you are awesome, and that you're worthy of a good life, and that you can make changes, that you can get out of bad situations, that failure isn't fatal, that there's no end post. Like, you don't have to be successful by 25, by 35, and success is relative. You're going to go through, evolutions, so keep,
And
yeah,
depth.
yeah, and you're gonna maybe take a year off, and you say, hey, I didn't like that thing, that I didn't like accounting. I went to university and I spent 5 years doing it. I don't want to do that anymore. And you don't have to. You don't have to spend 35 years doing the same thing. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But it's okay to life. If you, it's okay to switch. Adjust the sails and go in a different direction.
Yeah, and recreate a world that you want,
Yeah,
and a life that you want. It starts with questioning and then acting and saying, you know
yeah.
what, I'm going to break from the matrix here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what if, like, most people don't even want to, I was even adverse to doing that until recently, because I truly didn't believe it. Like, my core beliefs deep down inside, I was like, well, I believed in lack, or that maybe I didn't have something that somebody else had, or, oh, that's just my lot in life, like I can't achieve that. But it was like, we were talking a little bit about before this, and I don't want to get too religious with people, but like Jesus said, like, I think you said that, Jesus came here to teach that he wasn't a special being. He said, the things that I've done, ye shall do greater. And so that we're all amazing. We're all even more amazing than we could possibly think, than we thought. We don't know what we're going to evolve into, what the power that could be released when we align our chakras and do the breath work, and cleanse our bodies from all the toxins, and live a healthy, clean lifestyle. Like, who knows? Maybe we'll be, we'll be able to fly, to shift dimensions, to teleport. We don't even know that. That might be something that humans, our 12 strands of DNA, that are possible of doing. So just think of a world of possibilities and wonder and adventure, rather than thinking you have it all figured out. And I understand that
Or
it's
that
been,
this is the way it is, and damn it.
yeah, yeah. So the past 2 years has been dark, and I've lost a
It
lot of
has.
family.
Yeah.
I have lost a lot of family and friends, and so I just want people to know that, like, hey, if you're feeling down, reach out to me, and I'll have a conversation with you, and we and
Aw.
we and we and we can talk about the crap, because there is a lot of crap, but we can also talk about how we work out on the other side of it, and that we're going to do it together, and that life is worth living, and that it's amazing, and that we keep the vibration high. And what does that mean, keep the vibes high? Well, just be excited. Don't do things you don't want to do. If your mom, dad, government told you to do something and you don't want to do it, don't do it. The first priority that you have to ever do is, as long as you're not harming anybody else, go do what you want, you love. Like, give up that crappy job that you hate, and go do something you love. Even if it doesn't make you rich, you don't have to be rich, because that's just the true riches and wealth come from within, and it's health. So if you're balanced, happy, peaceful, loving, poised, calm, and serene, that's the life we want to live. No more wars, no more fighting, no more inner aggression, no more tension. It's like, no, that's done. We're moving on to something else. That hasn't worked.
No, no, and we're tired of it.
We're tired of it. I'm
Yeah,
tired of it.
I am. I am too, and I'm a
Yeah,
cause for better.
yeah, yeah. And so I
Not,
wanted to
every
say,
day is going to be rosy either, but I am a cause for better.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's often, that's what I've started in the past year, especially because I've had, my old life has fallen away, and it's almost like losing your identity. It's a difficult thing. There's been a lot of tears and frustration and anger, but man, it's beautiful on the other side of that, because you realize that's not who I am. I'm not my stuff. I'm not my experiences. I'm not my failures.
You're not your
and
story.
yeah, you're not your story. You're not the
You can tell a
same.
new story. We
Yeah,
even
or
Landmark talks about
yeah,
that we
or
live
you
in.
could, yeah,
Yeah,
change the perspective of your old
yeah.
one. But what the important thing is that the revelations I've had, sometimes, like, I always say, there was a point when I was going
Are
through
they
a
coming
lot.
after you behind there?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I'm
Yeah,
surprised it took them this long to
yeah.
find me.
Oh, they're the
But
men in white coats. Okay.
yeah, yeah. But with the dark, I always, about 2 years ago, and I was going through a lot. I'm not going to go, but my life was in turmoil, and it seemed like it was all just. And so I said, I wrote down on a piece of paper, because I love house music and producing and dancing and DJing and stuff. And so I wrote this. I've kind of been, whenever I have a bad moment, I say, find ways to dance on your darkest days. So, yeah, you find out that your dad's passed, or all the worst case scenarios of that are going to make your, like, that's what I realized, is that there's no real bad days. There's bad moments, or bad news that you might get, or bad that's we're coloring it with saying that it's good or bad, but there's going to be moments that are tough, but those are the moments that you get to transcend. So a lot of the times, a lot of the things that I didn't think that I even needed to work on, it's like this release. It's I don't know if we were recording when I said that, is you don't have to forgive yourself, you need to release yourself, because forgiveness implies that there was wrongdoing of some sort, and there isn't. Most people are doing the best with what they can, with what they've got.
Yeah, and love what is, and keep striving for better. And I
Yeah,
always
and
said, like, we're all teachers for one another.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the poor person on the street asking for money, it teaches us something,
yeah,
right? And Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, I remember this quote. It stayed with me. It was one of the rabbis who was teaching from the Kabbalah Center, which is, as I said, it's mysticism. He said, a somebody is really a nobody, and a nobody is really a somebody, because the nobody, you think of the life that person has led, the suffering, the maybe people ignoring them on the street. Think of the life, the uncertainty, how they've managed to survive, sometimes sleeping out in the cold. It's so true. Like a somebody is really a nobody, but a nobody is really a somebody, because they not that either one's better, or it's just, I just love that quote though. It said
yeah,
a lot.
and that's a good thing. So that's what I to kind of finish up with what I was saying.
Hmm.
It's a perfect transition. Is that if you're having a really bad time, like, let the emotion out if something happens, and but then also realize, like, what's the opposite of this, because a lot of the times with those releases of things that you thought you were holding on to, that you thought this is the way it was, and then something, you're like, oh my god, I don't have to be upset about that anymore. I don't have to hold on to that trauma. I can let that go. I can release it. You don't have to forgive, and so you let it go with love. And on those moments, that's what I'm looking forward to now, is the past. It's almost like when I'm going through something, I'm like, there was a part of me the other day, and things just weren't going my way, and I was like, oh my god, and I was upset, and I was like, I know that this is, but I was almost smiling at it, because I said, there's gonna be something on the other side of this that I'm not seeing right now, and I know it's dark, but once I get through it, and it's literally like that's the beauty of working through that stuff, is that your life becomes lighter, you become lighthearted, you can let go of those things that you held on to, which, like Landmark said, it's just meaning making machines. Like, we just made up this. The thing I loved about Landmark was this lady stood up, and this is one profound thing that she said, she's like, my father left me when I was 8, and blah blah this and blah blah, and he's like, whoa 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 whoa, he's like, let's just peel it back. He's like, your father didn't leave you. And she's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, he left me. And he's like, no, your father just left. He just made a decision to leave. It had nothing to do with you. That it was his own. He just left. Maybe, who knows? But he didn't leave you. It was just a circumstance and that's what it feels like as a child. I get that, because my parents separated, so I
Mm.
understood what she was saying, because I went through it seemingly. But it changed my perspective, and I was like, wow, yeah, so much of what people do isn't really about us, because, like, she doesn't know why he left, but it probably wasn't because he didn't love her. It's probably because he didn't love himself, or didn't think he could do it, or who knows, right? But that was a very powerful thing that I realized. So, yeah.
That's a nice place to end on. It reminds me of the late Dr. Stephen Covey. And I'll tell you one book you've got to read right now is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I'm about halfway through it. I've got it on my shelf. Yeah.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
just like the sixth habit is seek to understand before being understood. And I think if we seek to understand one another rather than having to get our point across,
Yeah. Yeah.
it,
Understanding is
it'll,
a
it'll, it'll make some big shifts in this planet.
yeah. That's a very important thing, because that's what I've realized, and I, honestly, it's like it's something that I dealt with, is that everything that we judge, we become, or we will experience. So now like, I'm conscious of, am I judging something here because I don't want to experience it? Because you literally will. People, you don't understand that, but you'll see that's the way life kind of works, is that it's almost like you're attracting it by judging it. So you'll
Yeah.
experience that, and you'll feel the other side of it. So be careful what you wish for and what you judge.
Yeah, for sure. Rob, what a pleasure. Rob Anderson on YouTube. You can find him on Facebook. He's going to be with us on the 26th as part of a town hall launch to a self-love and empowerment summit I'm hosting. I'm so glad you're part of that, and you said yes. And
Yeah, thank you for asking me.
and just to close, I saw you. We met about 2 years ago, I think. Yeah,
No, only just over a year ago.
was it?
As it seems that long, eh? It's
I
just
know it does.
drudgery being my friend.
Oh my God. Yeah, so over 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago or so, and I've seen such an evolution in you and a growth in you. You're a totally different person.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to.
And likewise with you, because I
Thanks.
think when we met too, it was a like there was a it was a dark time for everybody.
It was.
You
It
know,
was.
that's why we came together, was because it's like where's the other people that think like this?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Where's the light?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just seeing a really beautiful growth, and life hasn't been easy. I know you just recently lost your dad, and you've gone through your own changes and ups and downs, but you're just shining, and just I wish you nothing but more success, and for those watching, I hope we somehow affected you today and touched your lives a little bit, and maybe gave you hope. This is RISE, the podcast, stands for Rise Up, Impact, Socially Aware Entrepreneurs, and this guy is one of those. Until next time, have a great week, everybody.